Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. I thought today we could take a little dive into the one big, beautiful bill and what kind of things are in it. I had a request from Eric to make a video about this, and I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. But then this morning, whilst eating my sustained energy Cliff Bar, I was kind of looking it up because I really didn't know that much about it. And then next thing you know, I've become an absolute expert and thought I should share it with you. That's a joke. I am not an expert. I am not an economist or a political science person. I'm just sharing what I learned, trying to look up both sides really, so I understand what's going on. And I'll do my best to share it with you. Feel free in the comments to share your point of view in a polite way. And I know people get mad at me for being political. So if you don't like that kind of thing, please feel free. I have maybe 800 videos now, and a lot of them have no politics in it at all. So. Okay, so let's just dive in. I'll do the best I can. Like I said, I've spent literally just this morning looking at it, and I certainly didn't read 900 pages. But I think the first part is probably the tax cuts and deductions. I know this is important to a lot of you. So if you are a person who is a high earner over, I would call this a high earner, I think most of us would, but if you earn over 200,000 or as a couple over 400,000 per year, the tax cuts that I believe are already in place from Trump have been extended to high earners, and most of these cuts are permanent. Oh boy, how do you spell permanent? Permanent. This is an A. Oh God, hold on. I gotta start over. No, I'm not actually gonna start over because I started over 3 times today already. It's been a weird day. Somebody started using a leaf blower really loud. All right, so if you're a high earner, basically, like I said, over 200,000 or up, then your taxes will go down, and that's a permanent. Is that it? Permanent? I think so. That's a permanent tax cut. And big corporations also are getting big tax cuts that are in this bill and marked permanent. Now for the more working people out there, retail and bartenders, servers, the thing that a lot of you have been excited about is no tax on tips. No tax on tips. And I know my sons were excited about no tax on overtime. That is in that bill. Interestingly, these are considered tax deductions for middle and lower income people. And these will expire in guess what year? In the year they expire in 2028, which is, of course, the next year of a next presidential election. Okay, so those have an expiration date. but that is something that could help some middle and lower income people. One of the campaign promises that Trump had was that he was going to get rid of taxes on Social Security, which, for people who don't know, in the United States, everybody pays during their working years into Social Security, which is used to pay for Social Security for elders. I think you can start taking it out when you're, actually, I don't know, is it 65 or 68? I'm not sure. You can start pulling from Social Security, or you can hold off until you're like 72 and then you get a little more each month. Anyway, however, the no tax on Social Security is not part of the bill, but what they added is a deduction for seniors. Now, one thing I didn't mention is the bill goes through the House and it passed. It then goes to the Senate. The Senate looks at it and makes, I don't know if you call it amendments or adjustments to the bill. And they have done that, and it passed. And now the bill goes back to the House. And the House decides, that's why I have this here, because I knew I'd read of it. And the House decides what to do next, whether to make more. And then they decide if it passes or not. And then once it's gone through the House and the Senate and everybody's decided, yeah, it's good, then it goes to the president. And he will put his D-Trump signature on it. You can sell that for $5,000 on eBay. Okay, so right now, the bill is between the Senate and the House. It's like right here when I'm filming this. So the House had approved a $4,000 deduction for seniors in lieu of the no tax on Social Security. The Senate upped that to $6,000, but now it goes back to the House, and we'll see what they decide to do, whether to keep the $6,000 or not. And that is based on the senior's income level. So not everybody would get it. And I don't really know how deduction. I don't really know how that works, whether they all get the full $6,000 or you get a partial. I'm not sure. I didn't look it up. But anyway, senior deduction of maybe $6,000 instead of the no tax on Social Security. That part didn't get through. But that also expires in, guess what? 2028. So just in time for an election. Politics. Okay. Is there anything else with tax, or is that about it? Oh, I know what else. I forgot. There is if you have a car loan from a car that is built in the United States, then you can get a interest deduction. So you're paying interest on the car loan, okay? So that amount, not the full car loan, but the interest part. You can get a deduction on interest, up to $10,000. Interest. Oh my gosh. Why am I even trying to write this? But that also expires in 2028. So all these expire in 2028, except for the really rich one. That one's permanent. Typical. Okay. So there's that. Let's see, what do we want to do next? All right, let's look at military and defense. So one of the major things that they're adding is 150 billion. I don't even know how many zeros, so I'll just write billion. 150 billion in new military and defense spending. And also 70 billion sorry for my sloppy handwriting. I can't think and write. And 70 billion will be allocated to the border wall. I forgot the R. Border wall, and then deportations, immigration enforcement. So that's all that, stuff. All right, so that's 150 billion. So that's military and defense. That is in the budget, in the big beautiful bill. Okay. Next, we could look at this one's kind of important to me personally because for years now, for I don't know how many years, 20 years, I've run my own businesses. I don't work for anyone. And I had to go a long time without any kind of health insurance because you had to buy it privately and it was just outside of anything I could afford. And when the Affordable Care Act came around at the marketplace, I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually have health insurance. So this does matter to me. So they are talking about, or not talking about, it is in the bill, that they are make cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. And I looked this up because I was confused. But yeah, Medicaid is also the Affordable Care Act because they use money from that to pay for that. And SNAP is the Supplemental Nutritional, what's the AP stand for? I don't know. But it's like for people who are very low income. I think you have to be well below poverty income to get SNAP. And it's supplemental nutrition. I think that also helps pay for, I could be wrong, I think that helps pay for the breakfast at schools, or if people can't afford the school lunches, or summertime, breakfast and lunch. They sometimes do at certain schools. Okay, so they're talking about, no, they're not talking about, I keep saying that. It is in the bill to cut 930 billion over the next 10 years. So it'll be sort of a slow cut of that. And the interesting thing about this is these cuts to Medicaid and SNAP and the Affordable Care Act. And by the way, a lot of the money from Medicaid is used to support hospitals in rural areas, things like that. The other thing, they're going to add work requirements. So that's a kind of confusing one because I heard J.D. Vance, vice president, say, well, people will just have to apply for a job. But the work requirements are 80 hours per month. So I don't know, will they check every month? Like, are they going to hire more government employees to handle the workload of checking all these work requirements every month? I'm curious how that will play out. And like, what about people who work for themselves? Like, am I just telling them, yeah, I work that much? Like, I don't really totally understand how they're going to handle all that for all the varied types of jobs people do these days. It's not like everybody works at a business where you get a paycheck every week. There's so many varied, like jobs you can do now. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But interestingly, these don't start until what's the word I'm looking for? They don't go into effect. They don't begin until December 31st of 2026. Now, for those of you who aren't from here, in the United States, we have what's called midterm elections. So they're in between the two presidential elections, which are 4 years apart. At 2 years, we have midterm elections, which will be held on November 3rd of 2026. And so the Republicans didn't want this to go into play until after the midterms because they know that a lot of people are going to get kicked off of their affordable care. The way the Affordable Care Act is, as far as the state where I am, you go on to the website and you can look at all these different insurance from different companies, and they give you credits depending on your income so that you don't have to pay like, $1,800 a month. Instead you pay like $500 a month or whatever the case may be. So once they take that away, it's going to hurt a lot of people, and Medicaid too. So that doesn't go into effect until December 31st of 2026, which I think kind of shows that they know that's going to be unpopular. Okay. Let's see, what else do I have here? This is why Elon Musk is mad. We'll look at that in a minute. Okay, let's talk about environment and energy. This is kind of a confusing one. So I had to take some notes here. Let me look at my notes. Okay. So all right. They had rules in play that the companies had to monitor their methane leaks. And that's expensive. But methane in the environment is more, I don't know how to say this, accelerates poor air quality and climate change. And it's just too costly for energy companies and small drillers to monitor methane leaks. So they are taking away they're removing the clean energy tax credits. Okay. Removing So they're removing clean energy tax credits, which is an incentive for businesses to use more renewable energy. They're expanding oil, gas, and coal leasing on public lands and waters through 2040. Public lands and waters. So that could be like national parks. Could it be state parks? I guess it could be. I'm not really sure, but public lands. Okay. They're cutting, and this is the part I was just talking about, the EPA methane rules. It lowers coal royalty rates until 2034. Okay. So companies would pay royalties to drill on public lands, and it's lowering that. I had to take notes because I was like, I don't really get all this. This benefits the fuel industry, and consumers like us may see short-term price breaks on your bills, but it could also have long-term environmental costs by not monitoring these things. And one thing we've learned from history of like the bald eagle and I forget which other ones we've done. We've done a few. That big, you can't trust these big companies to do what's right for the environment. They'll do what's cheapest. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's kind of true. It's like if polluting the water, I mean, the 70s, dude, they would just dump all that stuff right into the waterways. And by the way, not just big companies, like people. People would finish a picnic and just throw garbage all over the place. Like nobody picked up garbage. It was gross. All right. So anyway, they're taking away clean energy tax credits. They are making it less expensive for big businesses to drill on public lands. So it could lower the cost of your energy bills. So that's the good news. It could destroy the environment. That's the bad news. All right. State and local taxes. This kept coming up and they call it SALT. And I was like, I don't know what this is. They're talking about deduction changes. Okay. So it will raise the state and local tax deduction cap to $40,000 a year for households under $500,000 income. I don't even understand. This expires in 2029. So basically, it's going to raise the deduction cap to $40,000. So the normal deduction cap is $10,000 and they're raising it to $40,000. So if you're paying state and local taxes, you can now deduct up to $40,000. Does that sound right? To $40,000 per year, and it's normally $10,000. But this will expire and go back to 10 in 2029. Okay. Okay. I don't know. That kept coming up, and I'm like, ay. I don't know if I'm smart enough to do that. That's why I didn't want to do this one, because I wasn't sure. But then I was like, well, we can share it, and everybody who knows more can say so. Okay. So those are the main things. Now, a lot of you may have seen Elon Musk all of a sudden, Trump's worst enemy, coming out and saying that it's going to be terrible. And that is, I think, because a lot of smart people who understand maths have said that this bill will increase the national debt $3.3 to $3.9 trillion in 10 years. $1 trillion. And they say part of the drivers of it would be the permanent high income tax cuts and corporate tax cuts, the military spending, and they keep bringing up this SALT. So this deduction up to $40,000, I think that is a big deal, more than I would have thought, more than I would have known. So this is why a lot of people, a lot of Republicans, I should say, hate this bill. I think Democrats mostly don't like the bill because of the lowering of high income tax, corporate tax, the Medicaid cuts and SNAP cuts, which could really hurt rural areas and hospitals. And this environment stuff is also tax credits or tax deductions for corporations, basically, because they are not even taxed, but they won't have to pay for environmental hazards. Does that sound right, you guys? But what Republicans love about the bill think, is the 150 billion added to military and defense spending and 70 billion for border wall, deportation, and immigration. So, yeah, I think those are the main deals with the bill. So if you own an American car loan, if you have a car loan from a U.S. built car, you can deduct the interest. Now, when they say U.S. built, what do you think they mean? Like, what would, because like a lot of Toyotas, I think, are built in Tennessee. So are they U.S. built, even though they're a Japanese company? Like, you know what I'm saying? I wonder how they're going to, and then like with these work requirements, how are they going to do that? And a lot of people who are on Medicaid are on it. Well, I don't know how to say that. But, you know, they might not be able to even know how to use the computer to upload the right kind of files they need to show their work requirements. Like, how is that all going to work? I don't know. So the other thing I saw, if you are wealthy, they're making it so that instead of, they're making like all these tax breaks for capital gains and estate tax. So you can give $15 million per person in estate tax breaks. And if you're a big corporation, you used to have to pay, I think, 21% tax. Or I'm sorry, 35% tax, but they lowered it to 21%, and that will stay. So that's good for shareholders and executives if you're one of those. I don't know. I'm trying to think what else I read. So what do you guys think? Trying to think which one of these like affect me. Well, some of you know I backpack, I camp, I hike, I used to fish a lot. I don't fish so much anymore, but I would if I had somebody to go with. So I'm sort of an environmental, and I love animals. I love wildlife. I have owls and bees and deer and raccoons. So for me, the environmental thing, that kind of bugs me. The Affordable Care Act, I'm very curious what will happen with this, how that will affect somebody like me who works, I run businesses. I don't get a normal kind of paycheck. So if I stop making videos, you'll know it's because I had to go back to work to get insurance. So we'll see where that takes us. But that won't begin until December of 2026. So it's something we can worry about later, apparently. Anyway. All right, guys. Well, that's that. That's all I have about it, I think. So